My name is Joe Frenzik, and this is a critical update for everyone as we are now reaching even riskier levels in the financial markets worldwide. This is the rise of safe haven assets, gold and silver. So you own many types of insurance, and the reason being is because the future is uncertain. But one thing is for sure, and that is that prices of goods are always increasing, and the purchasing power of your currency is always decreasing. The insurance for this is gold and silver, which hold their value over time. This is why intelligent investors stack physical gold and silver, and that is exactly what is happening now. Millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires, and countries alike are amassing huge amounts of precious metals while you hold on to your fiat currency. For instance, George Soros. I mentioned him in my first presentation video. He is an elite worth over $24 billion. He is preparing himself for the upcoming financial crisis by moving money out of the stock market and into gold. He recently cut his US stock holdings and took a $431 million sell position of US equities. And now his biggest holding of his portfolio is in Barrick Gold Corporation, which is giving him a huge return on investment as gold and silver prices increase. In my first video, I showed you how the reserve currency has always and will always change. Currently, the US dollar is the reserve currency of the world, but it is under severe threat, which I discussed before. I wanted to remind people of this transition from the US dollar to the next stage. Notice how every previous reserve currency was a reserve currency from 80 to 110 years. The US dollar has now reached that maximum threshold. Since 2008, student loans, welfare, debt, healthcare, and money printing have increased a large amount, while in the same time, the labor force, family income, and home ownership has decreased. The Brexit vote was Thursday, which 52% of the people voted to leave the European Union. This caused ripple effects around the international financial markets. I have listed here a large amount of stats that broke records, and some date all the way back to the 1980s. Remember, I have talked a lot about Deutsche Bank and how they face an uphill battle. Friday, their stock took a huge hit. At one point, it dropped almost 17%, which contributed to the EU bank's worst day in history. Although we experienced incredible losses, gold and silver spiked higher. At one point, gold and silver were up 8.5% and 7.1% respectively, and eventually closed the day at 5.1% and 3.7%. After the Brexit vote, Google Trends reported an increase of 900% searches for buy Bitcoin and a 500% increase for buy gold. This is not surprising. When financial markets are in a panic, people know they should be putting their money into safe havens to preserve their wealth. The S&P 500 and the Dow Jones increased 19 and 21 times the 1980 price. And as we compare the 1980 US debt figure to the current value, we also see that it multiplied by the same amount. If the US equity markets are dependent on US debt increasing, it is easy to understand why this cannot last forever. The US debt bubble is already at astronomical levels of $19 trillion. I added this great graph that shows how undervalued silver and gold really are. Since 1980, gold and oil have barely gained, while silver has actually lost value. It shows how incredible this opportunity is to take advantage of the low prices of silver. The S&P 500 is showing clear resistance around the 2100 mark, and with the massive losses on Friday around the world, and knowing that people like George Soros are shorting stocks, this could cause more losses in the coming weeks, months, and years. In my first presentation, I went well in depth with the gold to silver ratio. Silver is still gaining over gold, but we are still waiting for the big break of 67, which is when precious metals will increase dramatically. Also notice how the volume in the bottom is increasing at a steady pace, meaning more people each day are buying gold and silver. Gold shot up $100 per ounce during the Brexit vote, but settled just above $1,350 per ounce, and I expect $1,300 per ounce is the new floor for gold. Here on the daily chart, the thick yellow line on the left indicates the beginning of 2016, and since then, we have continuously made new highs. Silver has also been making new highs. It closed lower on Friday, but the increases in price show us that it has room to move up. That being said, I don't think we will break through the 1850 mark for a little while. The reason being is because it is a heavy active resistance level that will be defended strongly. The break of 1850 will cause gold and silver to increase dramatically. On March 24th, when I first let you know that gold and silver were great investments for your future, I also talked about the mining shares and how drastically they had already moved. This is the GDX, an exchange traded fund that is invested in multiple mining companies. Since my first PowerPoint when I told you about the GDX, it has increased 37%. In conclusion, remember that we calculated a date for the next recession in my first presentation. The Federal Reserve said that they would raise interest rates 4 times this year. I said they wouldn't, and they haven't. And I still don't expect they will. Gold and silver have been manipulated, so you know for a fact you're paying well under fair market value. Demand is increasing for precious metals and Bitcoin, which by supply and demand laws will force prices higher. The gold to silver ratio is strongly in silver's favor for the future, and the US presidential elections are like nothing we have ever experienced, and this can cause huge changes in the financial markets. And finally, the big news of the week and upcoming weeks, Brexit and the UK leaving the European Union. It shouldn't be difficult to understand that safety is in your best interests. I hope you decided to insure your wealth and buy silver. My name is Joe Forensic. Thank you for your time.